top 6 most profitable interior residential contractors. That's a mouthful, so let's get right on into it. Coming in at a strong number 6, we have junk remover / junk hauler. Now, there's a lot of money to be made in trash, and there's something to be said about the businesses that take care of doing things that people don't want to do. And this is a very strong market. You got the investors who are always doing cleanouts from rentals to flips. That's a very strong market. From the grandmas that have been hoarding over the years in the basements and the garages that need to be cleaned out. And so there's a very strong homeowner market for this business. And so just talking with some of my friends in this industry, I know that they're probably going to be doing around 2 to 3 jobs, maybe even 1 job a day. But I'm going to take it as one of their best days, maybe 3 clean outs a day. They're probably going to get somewhere between 450 to 600. Let's be conservative. If they do 3 jobs a day at 450, they're going to have a revenue of about 1,350 for the day. And usually you're going to need about 2 installers. I would say 2 installers at $15 an hour. You're going to probably pay about $240 in labor for the day. In those type of jobs, junk haulers are moving and driving from across town. You might have one project on the east side of town. You might have one project downtown. And so you got a lot of driving. So I'm estimating gas to be somewhere around $48 a day. And then as far as expenses, you got your vehicle tires that you might get a nail put back into a driveway or pulling into the dump. You got dump expenses. I got expenses somewhere around 40% of the net for the of your revenue for the day. That'll give us overall expenses somewhere around $540, and so that gives us a grand total or a daily net / profit of $522 a day. That comes out to about $2,600 a week. And that's a very strong profit. That gives us about a 40 to 30% profit a week, which is really good money. That's a great business model, and that's number 6. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how I come up with these numbers. I am running a basically one owner with 2 technicians doing an install, and each business is going to have a difference and vary on how many projects they can do in a day. And so a lot of these can do maybe 1 or 2 jobs a day, or these businesses can do 1 job a day. But basically, this is based on my experience on what I see a contractor can produce in 1 day with their crew. And so that's how these numbers how I come up with these numbers here and understand their business model. So let's get into number 5. Coming in at number 5, we have window and door contractors. Now, these type of contractors are usually providing labor and materials. You know, they're going to make some money on the material as well as the install. And just from my experience out here in this industry, let's say that a house has 10 windows. From my experience, usually a lot of these contractors are charging somewhere around $600 to $1,000 a window. Let's go on a more conservative end. Let's take it at $600. So if you're doing a typical house has about 10 windows, and if they're going to charge $600 an opening, that gives us a revenue of $6,000. Usually, a lot of these businesses have 2 technicians. They may have more, but on average, they have 2 technicians to handle a job for a day. And so if we have 2 technicians, the average salary is going to be somewhere around $18.32. So $2, so 2 installers at $18.32 gives us around $293 for labor, our technician labor. Usually gas is going to be somewhere around $32 a day. And then your job expenses, if the windows were around $350 each, at 10, it gives us expenses somewhere around $3,500, giving us a net profit for the day of $2,174. Now, it's going to vary greatly depending on the business, but on average, I think a business that's going to do windows can definitely see around $2,000. Given this kind of project, can definitely see about $2,000 net profit for the day. And if you can do one of these a week, if you can do one of these each day of the week, you're doing really good. You'd have made a net profit of around $10,800 for the week. But knowing how these businesses work, they're going to probably have some downtime, maybe 2 to 3 jobs a week. So that's how that's going to work. Sliding in at number 4, you have fire and water damage restoration contractors. Now, this is a great business to get into. Why? Because you're dealing with a lot of people's directly with their insurance companies. That lets me know that you don't have to worry about getting paid. And so, but also there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of running around you have to do when dealing with these insurance companies. So that's one thing to keep out for, but there's a lot of money to be made. Let's get into the numbers. And so on average, there are big fire loss jobs, there are big water loss jobs, but on average, there's going to be a lot of those smaller water jobs. And so those water jobs are usually on a daily revenue. You're probably only going to be able to do one. You might be able to do 2 or 3, but on average, I would say about one a day. You would probably have around $3,500 revenue on a day. As far as expenses, if you have 2 technicians working a job, you paying those guys somewhere around $17.36 on average for an 8-hour day. Your total labor amount is going to be somewhere around $277.76. Gas, $32 on a day. And then job materials, somewhere around 25% of the revenue, which is going to give us somewhere around $875 in expenses. Now, I do think those expense numbers are a little high because there's not a lot you have to do if you already have the equipment. You're not buying a lot of other materials that have to go into a job because you're just doing a dry out. And so that's going to give us a daily net profit of somewhere around $2,315.34, which breaks down to around $11,500 in net profit a week. This is if you're able to do one job a day for the whole week. Now, look, these numbers are very, advantageous, because I don't think you'll be able to do that, but if you can, you're making some really good money. Coming in smooth at number 3, we have audio and visual integrators. Now, these are the guys that are putting in your smart home systems, your security surveillance systems, and also your home theaters. Now, these guys are making some really good money as well. Why? Because they're working for a lot of times people with a large disposable income, and as well, they're making a lot of money on the product, not necessarily the install itself. And that's very important because you can make money on both. In some industries, it's a lot better than others. And a lot of times, these audio visual integrators can get products that the homeowners can't, and that profit margin is hidden. And so that's where you're making good money. And so let's dive into the numbers here. On average, for your home theater, you're going to spend somewhere around $8,500 for an average job. And let's say you can do one job a day. Sometimes it may take 2 days, but let's say if they can get the job done in one day, you're making $8,500. Let's get into the expenses. You're going to have, if you have 2 technicians, you got 2 technicians at $20.34. That's the average salary for a mid-level technician is $20.34. On 8-hour day, you're going to have labor expenses at $325.44. Gas at $32 on a day, and then job materials somewhere around 60% of your revenue on that day, giving us a daily net profit of somewhere around $3,000.56. And on a week, that's giving us $15,212 on. I was going to say on average, but basically, if you can get one job done a day for the week, you're going to make $15,000. Now, this is being very advantageous, working at maximum capacity, getting it done, getting it done, doing it at a very high quality. Do I think that you're going to make $15,000 in a week? No. Do I think you can make between $9,000 and $15,000 in a week? Absolutely. But this is towards the top tier of interior contractors for profitability. Coming in at number 2, we have your plumbers, and more specificity, your sewer and water contractors. Now, this is one of my favorite industries as far as contracting wise, because it's a necessity. You got to have running water, and you got to have a sewer line that works, because if not, it backs up into the home. And so a lot of times when your clients need you, it's an emergency, and it's not like, hey, we're shopping you. It's, hey, what's your quote? Can you do it today? You love businesses like that. And then so dealing with these type of contractors, I know what they're making. Let's dive into the numbers. A lot of times they're going to be able to do a sewer job, and let's say most sewer jobs that I've paid for are going to be somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000. Sometimes they can even get more expensive than that. I've had to pay $11,000 for some sewers, depending on how deep and how long they are. So if you have a daily revenue, and a lot of times you can do this job in 1 or 2 days, but let's say if you are very advantageous and you have a good crew, you got revenue on the day of $7,500 for a sewer replacement. And that's going to give us, if we got 2 technicians working at $25.70, that's going to give us a daily labor rate of $411.20 with $48 in gas on a day because you're going to be ripping and running and getting that supplies and stone and whatnot, and then another $2,250 in job materials. I'm equating that to about 30% of the overall revenue on the day because you got to get stone, you got to get pipe. There are a lot of expenses that go into doing a sewer job. You're talking about the excavator, gas. That's going to eat into that profit a little bit, but not very much. If we got $7,500 on a day, and adding up those expenses, we're going to have a daily net profit of somewhere around $4,790. Now that is making some good money just for one day, 1 or 2 day job. And that's if we multiply that times 5, we're going to have a daily. If we can do one job a day, that gives us a weekly revenue of $23,954. Now that's some really good money. Even if you can only do 2 or 3 jobs a week, that's still some really good money. That's our number 2. Let's figure out what our number 1 is. It may surprise you. Coming in at a very healthy and profitable number 1, your heating and air contractors. Now these guys are making some really good money, and let me tell you why. A lot of the time these guys are working on do or die situations, I should say. You can't go without air, or I mean you can, but you're going to be living a very uncomfortable life. You can't go without heat. That's a necessity. If it's 15 degrees outside, you're not waiting to call that heating and air contractor. You need him today, and you're probably going to pay the first item that says. And if you can't pay him, they're probably going to try to get you on that finance plan, and they're boosting profits, man. And so just knowing what I've paid from the contractors, let's get right into it. Most installs for a residential system, you're going to pay somewhere between $8,500 to $12,000 for a furnace and AC replacement. And that's some good money, man. Let's dive into the expenses. And if you got 2 technicians working at $24.27, that's the average rate for a heating and air technician. The average daily labor rate for 2 guys is going to be somewhere around $388.32. Spending somewhere around $48 in gas on the day. And then job materials exceeding somewhere around $2,975. That's roughly around 35% of the overall revenue on the day. And so that gives us a daily net profit somewhere around a little bit more than $5,000 a day. That's right, $5,000 from one install a day. And that's if you don't have to go back the next day. This is actually 1 day's profit, 1 day's take home if you got a good crew and they're burning. And that gives us a weekly net revenue of $25,000, 443. Man, that is astounding. Very astounding, especially for a contracting business. Don't get me wrong, a lot of these companies are not running at 1 install a day. They're probably going to get 1 install for every 3 days, 1 install a week sometimes, just depending on how their business works. But if it's one of those big companies, man, I think they can absolutely reach $25,000 a day running 1 crew based on their marketing efforts. But I know they got a lot of money in expenses. And this is really to give you an overall just kind of lay of the land with HVAC contractors and what they're making.